Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the weekly Wednesday for the Financial Freedom newsletter, where every week, every Wednesday, we delve into something inspirational, motivational, something excerpt taken from the Financial Freedom weekly newsletter. Wherever you are, if you're listening on Spotify, on iTunes, Google, be sure to click the like, subscribe, share, comment. And without ado, let's get into the show. Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, I'm always in the marketplace for talent, new ideas, inspiration, people on the cutting edge, doing amazing things, changing the world, and bringing it back to traditional industries to hopefully apply some of those concepts. So today is really interesting. I have a very interesting guest, Andy Goldstrom. He's actually a Inc. 500 business entrepreneur, and he's now turned into parent coaching, which is really interesting. We'll learn about what this concept is. We'll learn about his very interesting story, unique story, how he got into it. And I'm really fascinated in coaching, raising kids in today's chaotic society, in this era of social media. And so, Andy, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I know we connected through Podmatch, and I know you have a really interesting story you want to share with the audience, how you got into parent coaching. You're a Inc. 500 business entrepreneur. So get started.
Sure. I'll try to be succinct, but I was an entrepreneur. Wasn't kind of a corporate guy after I completed my MBA. I just realized that wasn't for me. I like to get things done and I like to innovate. And I actually was involved in starting a real estate company in the early 90s. And I know that you're an investor and talk about investing in real estate. And I got involved in an aspect of real estate that was corporate management. So it's corporate real estate, where companies that owned or leased real estate, that had a portfolio of real estate, that there was a way to maximize the value of that as opposed to just being transaction. So we had some big corporate clients and actually grew the company, and it became an Inc. 500 company, and we sold it in 2005. And that gave me some financial freedom. Certainly worked pretty darn hard over the years to try to make that happen, but we had a good value proposition, and it was a good time in the marketplace for these kinds of needs, and we disrupted the marketplace. So it was fantastic. Fast forward, I served as an executive in some other companies where I took over for the founder, had a global role at an investment bank. So I kind of grew my footprint from regional to national to global. And then at about the time that happened, my daughter started going through some emotional struggles. I have two daughters. This was the younger one. And she had some emotional challenges as she went through her teenage years. She had some short-term memory challenges, so she couldn't retain things the way other kids could. And as kids started growing into their teenage years with their schooling, she was surpassed emotionally and academically, and she started to spiral. And I was still working really hard, working 60 hours a week. My wife was working part-time. She was at home. I was traveling a bit. We tried to support her in every way, shape, or form that we could. Tutors, programs at school, a psychiatrist, therapists, but it wasn't enough. And over the course of about 2 years, it got to the point where she was totally defiant, wouldn't leave her room, was afraid to go to school, was doing drugs, and started to be a harm to herself and others potentially. And so turned to wilderness therapy and residential treatment, where we sent her away for 14 months for some more advanced therapy. And it was at that time I realized it was kind of a lonely existence. It wasn't easy to find, and it was expensive. And other parents started calling us, asking for support and help, because they knew what we were going through and wanted to see if we had any guidance based upon what we did. And it was at that time I realized that there was a real need out there. And this was a couple years pre-COVID, and social media hadn't advanced to the way it has now. And so, with the financial freedom I had, and with the need in the market, and with what I went through as an individual, and realizing I was a guy who could help male parents, not just female parents, in a unique way, because there aren't that many males in this field. I got certified and have been coaching parents to help them build more confidence and joy in their lives for several years now, and really feel that it's an impactful thing.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, and so this idea is one thing that I had questions about as parent coaching is it something where is it just for, in the same cases and situations where their kids are really struggling, or is it something that you can do where their kids are, performing pretty well, but they want to take them to the next level, or, just basically raise better kids? Because, honestly, I read a report where it's like people are pessimistic about the future. They don't want to have kids, and this debt, and just the whole gun violence, social media, bullying, eating disorders, all of these things. So where does parent coaching fit into all of this?
Sure. Well, I'm a little bit more niche. I've had a client before where they had a young kid who was a piano prodigy and wanted to be able to optimize that aspect for a child. And I helped in that way. But really, what I wanted to do was make sure that the child actually had some say rather than just being steered, not doing what they wanted to do as young as that child was. And so we had to find a way to communicate so that they were on the same page, as opposed to the kid just being bossed around because the parent was the musician and wanted the kid to be, representative of his goals and his wishes and everything else. And so I worked with that kind of child, but I'm not the parent coach who, my kid isn't eating broccoli, I need help. I'm the parent coach who works with parents who are typically 35 to 55 years old. They could be anywhere in the country, because I work virtually as well as locally here in Atlanta in person. And they tend to have a real issue, defiance, where the kid just isn't listening to them because of the communication channels, boundary setting, especially with the phones and the technology and everything else getting out of hand, where they have, alcohol or drug problems, or may have even been incarcerated or at a program of some sort. And the parents need to align better and heal and have a better approach, either proactively or reactively after there's been some trouble. And so I typically, handle challenging cases. I charge for my work. And and this is a choice for parents to improve their lives and their families. And so, again, the eating broccoli thing is probably not something that parents would be willing to pay for, or that I'm adding the most value to. So I really try to have an impact where there's the greatest impact.
It sounds like it's a really interesting field, that this niche where there's a need and there's people that can come in and help. It's like almost, there's like all different types of coaching, like fitness, diet, relationship, and parent coaching, life. One thing that is quite interesting is that typically in these families, you got a spouse and then you have a kid, and kind of how do you best align with your spouse to get on the same page, get aligned, achieve the same goals and outcome?
Sure. Well, a couple of things that happen. I work with single parents. I work with co-parents, where parents are separated or divorced, and they're blended families, and they're having to cooperate and figure out how to cooperate when they're handing the kids off. And I work with married parents who are not, who may not be on the same page either. And what tends to happen is parents have this vision of what their child should be like, and based upon what their hopes and dreams are and based upon how they were raised. And so when they cast that onto their kids and do it kind of in a reactionary way because they're disappointed or they're frustrated, it doesn't go very well typically. And often what happens is the parents don't communicate in advance, so they're not aligned. One parent will reprimand their kid or tell their kid that they, need to clean their room. And then they'll go to the other parent and the other parent will say, you don't need to do it right now. And then what do you think the kid's going to do? Right. So it's really important that the parents change their mindset and understand that it's about their child's journey, what they want to do to have their most fulfilling life. And all kids want to do is feel understood and like they have some control. And if the parents communicate proactively, they support each other, they don't necessarily have to agree on everything that they're implementing with the children, but at least they will compromise and support each other on major things. It tends to be far more effective. And then you have to have a consequence, violation of actions, and make that clear up front. And the way parents that I work with most effectively, they give their kids the choice. I was talking about control. You give the kids the choice by basically either having them come up with a reward or a consequence, or giving them, that the parents accept, or having a couple of different rewards or consequences that the parents decide to impose that the kid knows about. And then the kid has the choice. The kid gets, the child gets to comply or not comply. And then they have the choice of certain consequences that they may have. And if they don't adhere, the parents basically say, they don't get mad, they don't throw things, they don't scream, they don't name call. They basically say, we had our boundary, you violated the boundary, here's the consequence. This is it. And when it's done firmly and consistently and the parents are aligned and there's follow through, it changes the whole dynamic because the child knows that they can't play that game.
Yeah, really, really interesting. Talk about the role of boundaries. You mentioned, the idea of boundaries, really important, and basically setting a boundary. But then one thing the other question I had is with these parents, it's a lot of parents, they're business professionals, they have, careers, company, professions, all that. How do they balance parenting success, especially, a lot of, a couple of my doctor's friends, they never see their kids are in trouble all the time. How can they balance all of this?
Sure. Well, the first thing is boundaries are, rules that the parents agree on that are important in the household. And it's not every little thing. You pick your battles. So it's here are five things that are important in our house. You have to do your homework before you have use of technology. You have to, be honest with us. If we catch you in a lie, that's not a good thing. You have to keep your room relatively clean, whatever it is, with an associated consequence. You can't have a list of 50 things. It has to be the five that, few things that are most important. And then you have to, you do have to be able to enforce them. And it's not easy in today's day and age. Parents, especially dual income families that are both working and their kids are at school and their kids come home and they're not being supervised or whatever. Every situation's different. I tend to be more outcome driven. So you're not micromanaging the kid, watching them minute by minute. You're basically saying, I'm going to check your homework when I get home, or I'm going to make sure your room is clean. You can do it when you want. I'm not going to nag you. But if you don't do it, you don't do it. And obviously, if it's something that you can't monitor in an appropriate way, then that might be a rule you choose not to implement or not. And parents have to decide what's most important to them, their careers, their kids, both, how to balance that. For me, I was the one when I was building my career as an entrepreneur, I was the one who was working the long hours and always traveling. And my wife was the stay-at-home mom. And frankly, we learned some hard lessons that I'm trying to help people avoid because we weren't always on the same page. My wife is the greatest person ever. She's so kind. She's so lovely. She's so thoughtful, but she was also a rescuer. So she would help, she wouldn't let the kids face enough adversity over time. She thought she was doing the right thing and pitching in. I, on the other hand, was on the other side of the spectrum. I was the get her done kind of guy. So I didn't understand why, and this is based upon my background as a kid from a, lower middle class family where we just, we weren't given choices. We just had to get it done. It was just this, and when you tell a kid just suck it up and get it done, they don't feel like they have control and they don't feel like they're understood. So neither side kind of worked, and we had to figure it out. And when I work with parents, I help them find that sweet spot, given their circumstances. With work and play and being home and all the rest.
Interesting. Yeah. How can people contact you, follow you, reach out to you? Check out your social media.
Sure. Not everything. The first place that people can look at is Parents. That's my website. So people can, see what my offerings are and how to get in contact with me. And if I got into this business to help people. So if somebody, just wants to have a chat, they can just schedule a meeting. My calendar's there. There's no obligation if they just want to have a chat and bounce some ideas off of me. If I can be of help to people, I'll certainly, discuss my programs and my plans. And I have a Facebook page for Parents Journey Coaching and an Instagram page for the same that people can follow me on if people are interested.
And let's, for everybody, let's thank Andy for coming onto the show, talking about this niche field. All of Andy's resources will be in the links and show notes. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
I hope you really enjoyed that wonderful, inspirational, motivational piece. Again, wherever you are listening, if you liked it, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, Audible. And without much ado, be sure to thank this show's sponsors, and we'll see you next week.